right, we're back with another episode of Anime Village. We're going back over the anime Adamanto chapters, pages 16 through 25, the rest of the chapter. This is super exciting. Bryan, thank you so much. I love the first one that we did, so I'm really excited for the second part of this one. So thanks again for being here and going over this with us.
No, for sure. Thanks for having me. I had a blast too.
Yeah, it was awesome. So we ended with Shinichi, he had stolen Harpe, and the scene exploded. He was leaving. Then we just jump into Abe showing up to Lord Kami's place. Abe and Lord Kami exchange words of Kami offering immortality, and Abe warning him, "What are you sure you want to play with this fire?" And what's the scene like? What's it like to jump from one scene to the other?
Well, it's not the jump. It's really kind of like the inference of Abe saying that, to Cammy, you don't know what you're messing with. So that right away gives some insight into, well, he knows something that he's not telling, or at least not telling us. He's
Right.
told Kami, and Kami is kind of, if you know his character at all, he's brash and pretty much nothing threatens him. So he's like, yeah, don't talk to me like that again. Let's just do this. So it's really just a matter of Abe knowing better and him telling him, but Abe also knows that Cammy won't listen to him. Right. So it's
Yeah.
like he'll tell him anyway just to feel good about himself, saying, well, I told you so, and you went ahead anyway, but there you go.
So they have, like, Abe walks in, he has this young man, seems to be tied up, a soldier, it looks like, or a samurai, someone holding a sword, and then Kami also has Harpe.
Yeah.
He appears to throw both into this pit of fire. I mean,
Yeah.
what's the significance of this? And then a demon appears too as well, or like a demon or devil or what?
Yeah. It was, I think we kind of touched upon this either last time or during one of our other conversations where it was like, the adamantine, which is what Harpe is constructed from, and if we go back even further, it's that indestructible either alloy or mineral that has been used in Greek mythology that Marvel stole as adamantium for Wolverine's bones and claws and some other artifacts in their mythology. But when it came time to, okay, I wanted this Yamato clan to develop the ultimate weapon, having this indestructible weapon just wasn't enough. It had to have more. There had to be more to it. So then I started thinking about, well, what can I add to that? And magic is always kind of like, I don't want to say it's the lazy way out because you don't have to explain everything. Some things are better left unsaid or unexplained. So then I started thinking, well, what happens if you took this indestructible material and then you infused it with these magical properties? What would be possible? And then just thinking along those lines a bit more, it was like, okay, the metal or the ore, whatever it is, has this property where it can kind of like suck these different things in and withstand all manner of trauma. So if you have magic and then you kind of dive into that where they have life spirits and they have death spirits and they have all of these other things, let's play around with that idea for a bit. And it hasn't
Yeah.
been fully explored because you've also got to remember that whoever's wearing the gauntlets that Cammy forges is able to call different things from the weapon, right?
Oh,
So
yeah.
let's say Abe was wearing the gauntlets. He would be able to pull more out of it than Shinichi would, right? Or
Yeah.
Shinichi can use it for different weapons, but we can get into those details a bit later. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's great, and you see what happens, and then it seems to set like a chain of events because in the next scene we're with the Byzantine and Turkey Empire and what appears to be also like lizards. And who are the lizard people? What's happening in this scene? And yeah, can you explain to us about that scene?
Yeah, so there's a series of 3 pages that are kind of the foreshadowing of what's coming up in volume one. So, like I said, the premise really is very simple, very tried and true when it comes to especially mythology, where you have one group that's trying to take over everything,
Yeah,
right? You have one dynasty, you have one clan, you have one group, whatever it is. They think they're the top dog, but there's others obviously that threaten them, so they have to take care of them. So we've introduced the Yamato clan, which is led by Lord Kami. Those are the guys that want to take over. Their chief rivals, there's 3 of them. So we have the Byzantine Empire, which,
yeah,
as you just mentioned, and they have the Serpentium soldiers. Serpentiums are actually a hybrid between man and basilisk. If you don't know what a basilisk is, Those are little bastards that you don't want to mess with. They're kind of like the velociraptors of mythology. You can check
Oh,
them out if you Google them. But that's only the beginning to them, because when you get further down the line, remember I mentioned mechas?
yeah. Yes, I
Yeah,
do. Yep.
that's where that comes into play, but I'm not going to spoil it, even though I get excited about talking about it. So you have the Byzantines, which has created the Serpentium army, which they have created to deal with Yamoto, because they know Yamoto is coming, and they know that Lord Kami has created this unhallowed conception of a weapon that they know has like these almost godlike powers. So that's why they're ramping up for that. And then I know you haven't mentioned it, but I'll go through it because I
Yeah.
wrote the thing. Then you follow up with the Al Caliphate of the Middle East, right?
Yep.
There's that page. Their claim to fame is they have an army that can't be killed because they've already killed them. So what they do is they kill all their soldiers, and then they come back to life, but they're undead. So how do you beat an enemy that's already dead? So that's their thing. And then we come to our third threat, which is actually the first one that they face in order of chronology of the book, which is the Tang Dynasty. The Tang Dynasty, they have a bunch of warriors, great archers, hand-to-hand combatants, but their big claim to fame is Shiji Morai, which is a 350-foot lion-headed, dragon-bodied titan, which Shinichi and the other guys have to throw down with. So
Oh,
those are the three main threats. I wanted to give them like the different empires and the different dynasties a different focus, right? So we have a Titan, we have an undead army, we have these basilisk slash human hybrids, but that's not the be all and end all to them, because like I said, we have this mecha thing, but I don't want to spoil it because that comes way further down the line.
yeah. I thought that was like a cool scene because you get to kind of see the different like parts that, like you just mentioned, like they have each army
Yeah,
has like
and
its own like special thing.
and those are the breadcrumbs, because really when like the first time you see the Byzantine is in chapter 1, you don't see them again until chapter 9,
Oh wow.
right?
Wow. Yeah.
Because the real focus of the first arc is the Tang Dynasty. So
Okay.
that takes up the first 4 chapters.
Yeah, the Tang Dynasty, when I saw that monster, I was like, what is this thing? It's gonna that's crazy to see
Yeah,
this
it's
thing.
really cool. It's pulled actually from an actual creature, but we're going to take a bit of a different spin on him. I always like the humanoid kind of shaped creatures because it allows them to pick stuff up and throw it, and it gives them a bit more. And it's also more relatable, where it's like you have this giant thing that has like the head of this and the body of that, but it's got these hands, and it's like
Yeah.
just kind of freaky. So
Yeah, I saw the hands. I was like, we're not sure what this is. Or like, is it like, but now that you explain it, I'm looking forward to seeing that in the next chapters. So of them
yeah,
facing
no,
off with
it's
that.
really really. I've always been a sucker. I'm a huge Godzilla guy, so you know whenever you start throwing Titans around, I'm there.
So after the Tang, after we see the Tang Dynasty, um, we come to a scene where we see Fuma, we see Oda and Shinichi sitting at Fuma's grave, speaking with each other, having a conversation. Um, and Oda mentioned that Fuma was a good man, and then Shinichi mentions, yes, pointlessly so. I don't mean no disrespect to our Lord in what sense, but what was this scene like? A little bit of a change of pace from what we were seeing before with Kami and the rest of the empires.
Yeah, that scene actually, while it's quite short, it was meant to accomplish a few things. The most important, I think, was setting that hierarchy
Yeah,
of where these characters rank within and what their relationship is with one another. So it's I think we had a similar situation when we were talking about Fuma and Shinichi in the Dadia Forest, right? Where Fuma's like, "What? Why did Lord Kami send us here? Like, I don't understand. We're here to, battle a bunch of tree elves." And then Shinichi fills him in, saying, "No, he sent us here to steal Harpe." So
yeah,
right there, then and there, you figure, well, Shinichi knows this, but Fuma doesn't. So Shinichi's like here, and then Fuma's like here. Same kind of situation here. We're at the gravesite where Shinichi is like, you know, Fuma was like a master samurai. He was a fine warrior. Meeting his end as a common thief isn't fitting of someone of his stature. And
right.
then Oda now is the one who's up here, and Shinichi's down here because Oda tells him that stealing a mere sword is what Shinichi says is by no means a way for someone like Fuma to meet his end. And then I don't have it in front of me, but I should remember this too because I wrote it. But then Oda replies, referring to Harpei as a mere sword is like calling Lord Kami a blacksmith's apprentice. In other words, it's not a sword. It's shaped like a sword, but it's much more than just a sword. And then he goes on talking about adamantine and then how Abe no Sema used his incantations to infuse it with these magical abilities to create this ultimate weapon, right? So we're implying and inferring a bunch of stuff. I never like to go straight ahead and just say, yeah, we're making this ultimate weapon because we want it over the world, right? That's boring. You got to, find another way around that. But also I think it's a nice little piece of character development because we learn who's calling the shots in what instances, right? So you got Kami, you've got Nobunaga, and then you've got Shinichi. That's the pecking order.
Yeah. It was. I like that scene a lot because it kind of gives you, like you mentioned, gives that pecking order a little more definitively too, as well too. But it also shows Shinichi's like upset about the situation, didn't want to see his friend go out like that. But Oda kind of mentions like what's going on in that situation. But I think that scene was very interesting to read and like look at as well too. But
for sure.
Yeah. And then we hop to the final 2 pages, which is where Lord Kame is making the gauntlets and screams. He's holding it up like this. It's on our website. It's on the famous got him up like this. What was it like to introduce this scene and the weapons as well too?
Yeah, well, the weapons, I mean, even now, after I've written, the first 266 pages of volume 1, it's an evolving kind of process with what we're calling the nexus of Adamanto, right? Which are essentially the gauntlets. So, like you mentioned before, the process is they took Harpei, they throw it into this giant hearth, they take an innocent person, they throw him into the hearth, and then you have like this explosion and this demon, like the shape of a demon comes, which is Ma, is the name of the demon, Ma. And he's kind of like based on an actual Akuma or demon from Japanese mythology, but I kind of made him our own, where it's like he nourishes himself by feeding on the souls of the dead and the alive, right? Because there's a scene later where we find him. But that kind of plays into what the nexus is later on down the line. But really, the point of creating the nexus is that it's a bit nebulous. We don't have to say this is exactly what it does, this is how it does it, and then going on. I thought it was much more interesting because the plan was always for the nexus or Adamanto, the nexus of Adamanto, to be the main character, not Shinichi. Shinichi's the main character in volume 1 and probably volume 2, but it's really kind of like the nexus is the hero of the book. So any of the other characters, when they put it on, like I said, will be able to use it in a different way based on their experience, their knowledge, and their skills, if that makes sense.
Yeah, that makes plenty of sense. I mean, that's going to be awesome. I mean, I think that's also like another cool aspect about this manga that you have of Adamanto.
Yeah.
It's not the main
and that was really born from my being a comic book guy for so many years, right? It's like, even though I don't read as much as I used to during some of my younger days, but I went through some fatigue where it's like, how many times can Batman go against the Joker? How many times can Hulk go against the UFOs? Or how many times can the Fantastic Four face off against Doctor Doom? It like gets tedious after a while. It's like,
right,
this is the 50th, 100th, 200th time that these guys have butt heads, and there's still no resolution. So I didn't want it to come to that, right? I want to keep things fresh, but you want to keep things familiar at the same time. So the connective tissue here is the nexus, right?
Yeah.
So you have the nexus and you have Shinichi, who has it now. He, for some reason, when he goes away, if and when he goes away, you're going to have somebody else that's going to don the nexus, and so on and so forth. And it brings not only a new character into the mix and a new focus, but a new dynamic for the storytelling, and also from the cool factor, what are they able to do with this thing? So, for instance, Shinichi is a bladesmith, right? He's a master horseman, bladesmith, samurai. So he takes what he's comfortable with, what he knows, and applies it to the Nexus. So when he puts on the Nexus, he's able to power up his katana with the Nexus,
Yeah.
right? And supercharge that thing and do crazy shit with it. Or Shuriken, or any of his other weapons, right? Or his physical abilities, right? So, for instance, when he's fighting, and this is giving a bit away, but just to give you an example, when he's first facing Shijimori, the Titan, right? And he puts on the gauntlets, and he looks to his general Otomaru, who will be introduced a bit later on into the story. He says, "Yeah, why don't you see what those things are capable of?" And Shinichi says, "Okay, let's find out." He like jumps into the air, and he just wham, just gives him like a right cross, and you have like fangs flying out, like he just punched a 350-foot Titan and set the thing back, right? That's kind of like my homage to One Punch Man. But the
Yeah.
point is, like, he's using the gauntlets as he sees fit. If we
Right.
get somebody with a magical background, or if we get somebody with a more tactical or a more strategic background, they'll use it in a different way, bringing out different abilities from this thing. Because, like I said, it's an untapped resource and an unknown resource to a certain extent. So we'll find out as we go along.
It's so cool. I love it. I think it's just such a cool, like, it's just a cool like factor of it, like of the Nexus, the Adamanto, the Nexus of the Adamanto. Like it has so many different like who uses it and how they can use it is just really such a
Yeah,
cool aspect of it because it keeps things fresh too. Like you don't know, it's not going to be the same thing over and over again. Like you said, if Abe
that's the
used it,
thing. And that's the thing with this kind of storytelling, is how do you keep it fresh, right? Like,
right?
it can't just be a slam bang like fight scene. It can't just be, magic here, there, everywhere. Um, and that's some why I'm such a huge manga guy. Like, even above and beyond comic books, especially lately, is because of the creativity, right? Like,
Yeah,
you've got books like Chainsaw Man, and you've got Demon Slayer, and you've got, what's another one? God, I can't. A Record of Ragnarok is one I've checked out
yeah,
recently, and it's just, I didn't necessarily like it all that much, but I can appreciate the unbridled creativity and just the way the character designs, and it's just so fresh and interesting and a different take than what so many other kind of the Marvels, DCs of the world are doing. It's just, there's no, it's unleashed. It's creativity unleashed, I guess, is pretty much what it is. Which
right.
which I'm all for. But it's easy to get carried away and get lost in that too, right? Because you do need some sort of structure. You do need to build your stories and have some sort of kind of pattern to it that ties everything together. Otherwise, it's just a hot mess.
Right, right, absolutely. Well, yeah, it's cool. Mangas bring out like I think bring out the best and some storytelling of what we enjoy and like some creativity. And I think that's why it's such where it is today and where it's growing. And I think it like you said, people got exhausted of the regular comic books and moved to mangas, and it's been really fresh. I mean, Adamanto is another one that's just it's super fresh. It's got like there's a whole lot of depth to it, and I'm excited for what's more to come with chapter 2, chapter 3, and so on, because it's super
Yeah.
exciting. Like I love it, and it's awesome. And what we have going on here at Anime Villages is fantastic. So I can't wait to see more of Adamanto.
Yeah, there's a ton more to it. And then, we'll do a rinse and repeat with the other books that we're working on, right? The next one is going to be our supernatural title, which is
Right.
Undead Reckoning, which I'm currently mapping out right now. And I gotta say, I mean, I'm a big shot. Like, shonen would probably still be my number one go-to genre,
Yeah.
action. But and I've never been a huge horror supernatural guy, right? But I gotta say, it's quickly becoming my favorite because there's like, but maybe that's an unfair assessment too, because I've kind of infused it with elements of other genres that I'm a huge fan of as well.
Yeah.
But it just, I mean, the action sequences that are supernatural based that we're introducing into this are just a whole hell of a lot of fun. I mean, it's kind of like taking Adamanto to even the next level because it's in present day, right? So it's a
Yeah.
bit more, the language and some of the characterizations are a bit more sophisticated and a bit more adult themed. So you can get away. It's a completely different tone, right? But there is that ties that bind, right? We've talked about this before, where the lead character, Ero no Semi, is the great great grandson of Abe no Semi, who is the one who built The
As-
Nexus with Adamanto. Right?
yeah, yeah.
I'm
It's
geeking out again. It's just really cool when you have those. I love those connections. Quentin Tarantino does it to great effect in a lot of his movies, and some of the with the Marvels and the DCs of the world, they do a good job of that as well. But I always liked connected universes. It's just an
yeah,
added like, wow, that's cool. You know what I mean?
yeah. It's that's awesome. Yeah. When you told me some stuff, it's really cool. What else is connected as well too. I'm very excited to read about it and see it come to life as well too. What's it like too, the shift that though from like writing Adamanto and then going to Undead Reckoning? What's that shift like for you? Because like you said, it's more modern. There's not a lot of history, but you're also writing a different genre as well too. What's kind of like that mindset shift from writing a shonen
It's
to going
not it's not as dramatic as it would, I guess, for some other writers who have a different process. Because really, my process is I take a lot of time up front to do my
to? Yep.
research. Like for Adamanto, I spent almost a year before I started scripting anything, right?
Yep.
Establishing characters, defining who they were, what their motivations were, where they fit in the pantheon, in the hierarchy, like we were talking about before, the pecking order. And then I get to writing. So by the time I get to writing, I'm very familiar with these characters and who they are and what they do. And every writer has like a different way they go about things. I know guys that just like, spitting off words on a page before they even give a name to a character. They start with the dialogue first,
Yeah.
right? It's all what you're comfortable with. But for me, what I always found the best way is that, again, I do all that research, right? And then I really flesh out who these characters are, what their abilities are, how they fit into the overall mix. And then I get into writing. And the reason why I don't start with the actual plot first is because my plots are always changing.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I think of an idea and, oh, that's really cool. That works really well. And then I'll go through it. And then I'll wake up one night or I'll just, be in the shower and say, shit, hold on a second. That's even cooler. So I'll change it. Right. So I never focus on the plot at first, which is also a manga thing because characterization is more important than plot points anyway. You don't want to get into these kind of intricate plots that last, 20 issues where it's like on and on and on it goes. It's more important that you get to know the characters and you start identifying with them and creating that emotional bond with them between reader and character, right? So
Yeah.
that works well in that regard as well, which is another reason why I love manga.
That's awesome. Well, that's very interesting. Yeah, I was kind of curious about that. But yeah, this has been fantastic, Bryan. I'm looking forward to the next chapter of Adamanto as well as Undead Reckoning when it comes out too. I'm very excited, but very excited to do these parts with you. And it's a lot of fun to get to sit down with the author and get his insights on each page of what goes on.
You know me, I love talking about it.
Yeah, yeah, anytime. Well, thanks, Bryan, for your time today. I appreciate it.
Thank you.